Let's get right into it. In your report, you mentioned over 60 companies leaving since 2020. What does this trend mean for employment in Nigeria and the economic implications for this 94 trillion naira loss in output?
Well, thank you very much for the question. Of course, the exodus of multinationals out of Nigeria.
Dr. Vincent, you may need to project. We need to hear you properly.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
I'm saying that the exodus of multinationals out of the Nigerian economy is not a good news by any measure. And over the last 4 years, since 2020, we've tracked about 70-75 exit of these companies. Some of them are Nigerian companies that had to scale down. The implication on unemployment is bad because we've seen that not just that Nigerians are losing their jobs, employment from these countries, in these companies that are shutting down, but the fact that if you look at the ecosystem, the value chain of these multinationals, you find out that over 3,000 small and medium enterprises are also affected, and Nigerians are employed in this institution. In fact, some of these SMEs are exclusively connected to these multinationals. To an extent that anything that happens to the big brands have adverse implication or has adverse implication on the MSMEs. Over the last 5 years, we've seen loss of millions of jobs by Nigerians due to the exit or scale down or even divestment of these multinationals out of Nigeria. And this is not a good news, like I said before, and something needs to be done very quickly to reverse the trend, get new multinationals back into the country, and begin to move forward.
So a few people will argue that it's not as bad as you might have painted it. We just pulled up a slide where we looked at in 2020 about 10 companies exited. In 2021, about 20 companies exited. 2022, 15. Then when you look at cumulatively 2023, about 15. And in 2024, you can actually count on your fingers the number of multinational companies that have left. And a few people would say that it's not as bad as it used to be way back then. Do you have an argument against that?
Well, thank you very much. And again, the slide you just showed are just the notable brand, the most notable brand. That is not all.
Okay.
Like I said before, we tracked about 70-75 over the last 4 years. And I've said that some of these brands, for example, the Unilever, PZ, you see over 500 SMEs connected to these institutions. And some of them, or most of them, are exclusive to the value chain, either as input suppliers or they deal with the finished products in the distribution value chain. So if you're looking at just 70 or 60 companies, you are making a mistake. Look at the ecosystem of this multinational. You understand the adverse reaching implication. So yes, it's not as bad as it sounds, but if you actually look at the value loss, the investment loss, the revenue loss, the job loss, and even the tax revenue loss by government itself at the federal level, PAT, at the state level, the personal income tax, and some other issues such as bandwagon effect. Some of the counterparts that are still in Nigeria are not investing as they would have invested. So you sit at the fence. What of the investors' confidence? New investors that would have come into the country, this news is also not good for them. We've seen situations where companies that were thinking or looking at Nigeria, with some good measure of investment, have decided to either wait at the fence or even we lost some of this investment to our neighboring countries in Africa. So it is bad. Even if there are only two, it is as bad as that. And we have to look at it holistically and look at the ecosystems.
Okay, so even as we look at it holistically and look at the figures, your report highlighted a staggering 94 trillion naira loss due to the exits, and you mentioned over 75 companies within a period of 4 years thereabout that actually exited the country. If you had to look at the numbers, I'd like to find out what methodology did you use in arriving at those figures, because we need to lay down straight so that people can have an understanding of how you arrived at the numbers.
Yes, thank you for this vital question. Yeah, in terms of the methodology, what we did is that over the last few years, we've tracked the exit or scale down or divestment of these notable corporates, these multinationals from Nigeria. And we now did what I can call a stakeholder analysis, value chain analysis, ecosystem analysis of this institution, and an estimated number of about 3,000 MSMEs connected directly or indirectly, some exclusively to these organizations, were also impacted. So we did business to business, B2B analysis, and most importantly, what we use is the revenue loss. Not the revenue losses, that we have lost as a country, or that these companies are supposed to make, that they are not making. You looking at their average revenue over the 5 years, and also average investment. So we use average revenue for the ones we find average revenue, average investment, and did a multiple, 5-year multiple of, you grow it by 5, the relevant multiples, sectoral multiples of this institution, whether they are in the manufacturing, whether they are in distribution, whether they are in the ICT. By the time you use that multiple to understand what will this company would have invested in the economy or made in the economy over the next 5 years, you clearly arrive at what we have arrived at. And not just the 75 companies with the known brands, but also their value chain. This value chain is about 3,000 MSMEs. We did a simulation, a methodology using price to sales ratio for the ones that are qualified for that method, and also use a multiple of price to book for the ones that have that type of multiple. So we use aggregate of these measures to arrive at an estimated 94 trillion loss on revenue and investment of these companies due to their exit from Nigeria. Right. This is not an output measure or a value added measure, but if you are using an output or value added measure, our number, you have to deflate our number. You have to take about 30 to 32%, because value added measure is about 32% of investment. It's about 32% of investment. So 32% of this 94 trillion is the value addition or the output loss by Nigeria. And if you spread this over 5 years, of course, you will see the analyzed numbers.
All right. Thank you for being explicit on that. Now, let's look at the 3 reasons that you postulated as, of course, why these companies actually left. Number 1, you talked about foreign exchange. You also talked about security and the issue around power. Now, these factors do not seem to have changed, despite the fact that the government has tried as much as possible to deal with those issues. And on top of that, we have a hawkish monetary policy, which is even making production more difficult. So does it seem to you that this government is doing only what it can to address this situation?
Well, I will answer this question in this way. These factors or these top reasons why these multinationals are leaving are militating, they are lingering, they've been there. And the question is, why now? The question is, why now? And the deeper analysis or survey we carried out shows that, yes, while these problems have been there, these challenges, business environment challenges have been there, they've been exacerbated in recent times. They've been heightened, the stress level have been heightened, in recent time. 2, other economies are not waiting for Nigeria to be all right. We are competing with other economies. By the time these investors understand that they can still go to other economies, provide that service, produce those goods, and move into Nigeria in one way or the other, it makes sense to quickly do that, So these problems, they've been there, but the problem is now bigger right now. And by the time they are now looking at the Nigerians, such that the trust or the confidence that this problem is going away is even beginning to wane. The ability of Nigerians to buy or pay to buy the products they are manufacturing or the services they are rendering is waning. And Nigerians' trust in the system is almost gone. They begin to take a rational investment decision. And that is why we're seeing the exodus. Of course, there are also issues on bandwagon effect and the perks they are getting from other countries. For instance, the Microsoft, which is the last to announce exit, announced that they are leaving Nigeria, shutting down their data center. And Nairobi or the Kenya is on the waiting hands. They are moving the $1 billion investment to Nairobi. You can imagine what $1 billion investment will be in the next 5 years. If you apply multiple in IT, multiple in IT is about 20%. It's about 20x. Over the next 20 years, we're going to see well over a value of $20 billion from that investment. That is just a multiple. We see that in Total F that moved their investment in oil and gas from Nigeria to Angola recently. They're going to spend about $6 billion over the next 3 years. If you use the multiple in oil and gas, about 14%, over the next 14 years, what will this $6 billion have been? So these are crises, and I'm saying that because more PECs, more conducive environment are emerging in other African continents. Of course, it is easy to take this decision. And moreover, over the years, since 2014 or so, when we rebased our GDP, we have been bouncing and enjoying the status as the largest economy in Africa. Recently, IMF projected that at the current trend, by the end of 2024, Nigeria's economy will be the fourth largest in Africa from the first that we've enjoyed. All of these news are also important to investors, in taking this shortening down, scaling down, and divestment decision, which again is hurting Nigerian economy, and the impact of this trend will even materialize and become more severe as we move forward.
Okay, so we see that these multinational companies left Nigeria by either scaling down operations, transferring ownership, or selling their stakes. Is there a better option than, is that a better option than downsizing, as it adds more to the unemployment indices? Some people feel, why don't you try as much as possible to reduce your work size and stay within the economic space in Nigeria, rather than having to just, sell your stakes and take other options? What do you think?
See, investors are not emotional people. Investors are not, they don't take decisions based on emotion or based on sentiment. Of course, when they were coming into Nigeria, when they were investing, some of them have been in Nigeria about 100 years, like Unilever, Guinness, over 100 years, as I read. PZ, the same thing. Before my father was born, they've been in Nigeria. They did not take this decision to come to Nigeria emotionally or because they want to help Nigerians. They come to make money. They want to try. They want to expand. And when those conditions are beginning to wane, such that their confidence in the economy is hitting rock bottom, of course, they have to take the decisions they need to take. If it is a Nigerian business, of course, we begin to see, why not help our people? They are employed in your company. Just scale down and put some people in on part-time. No. Other economies are offering them what we cannot offer, and they have to take this decision. And like I started, that investors are not emotional. They are rational decision makers. They take risk, but they don't survive in an atmosphere of uncertainty. And the uncertainty in the Nigerian economy is reaching an elastic limit.
All right. Now, how can Nigerian government deal with the issues that you had earlier mentioned in terms of the worsening security situation in the country? We know that there have been different efforts engaging with chief security officers, security chiefs in the country to deal with the issue around insurgency and the header farmer crisis. When you talk about the exchange rates, of course, the government actually floated the Naira. There's harmonization of the FX, and it's saying it's not going back on it. You look at the power supply, the customers have been fragmented into different bands, and there have been a bit of hike in what is payable by band A as opposed to other bands. Those are the various steps that the Nigerian government has taken, but seems not to have in any way affected positively the situation around inflation and other situations that we have experienced in the country. So if we are to speak to all these efforts of government or policies, what do you think the right steps should have been?
Okay, thank you for the question, but I want to start by saying that this report, this analysis whatsoever is not done to paint the government in a bad light. Moreover, the analysis spanned long before this administration. It is it is an analytical exercise to correct the situation on ground and ensure that Nigeria is good for it. All of us are good for it. You know, we're in Nigeria, I'm in Nigeria, and we don't have plans to move or japa if I want to use the local palace for it. And again, and with due respect and in recognition to the efforts that this government have made over the last 1 year when they came into power, they took the bull by the horn, made some bold reform announcements and initiatives, you know, floating the FX and ensuring that it is reflective of the demand and supply in the market, ensuring that the lingering subsidy on energy, you know, electricity is gone away or at least minimized partially, remove subsidy on petroleum products, especially fuel. You know, these are great, what we must do, and they did it. And I need to speak to that. Unfortunately, maybe the implementation, I don't know whether it is implementation or timing, you know, something did not really happen well, but we pray that things begin to move forward. And one of my friends said that the culprits or the vested interest in all of these anomalies in the economy got saved while the economy and the masses got hurt with the reforms. You know, so we want to see a reform that is inclusive, a reform that is beginning to put food on the table of Nigerians and reduce hunger using the Nigerians' local palace. And how do we move forward? What are the reforms that we need to put in place? Graciously, these institutions or these multinationals that are exiting Nigeria, there is not one of them that did not say precisely why they are leaving. When they made these announcements, precisely, even when they are trying to be a bit politically correct in some cases, they made precisely announcement why they are leaving. Okay. In fact, Okomo Oil, which is the largest oil palm producer in Nigeria, about a month ago, if I'm correct, have announced that they may shut down operation if the lingering spate of insecurity in their oil palm plantation continues. So okay. For oil palm, is insecurity in their installations. And this is also common with other plantation input related companies, such as PZ, that made the investment in such a plantation. You know, so what do? We have to address insecurity because a lot of them are saying security is our top. Second one, FS crisis is the second. What do we do? So we need to move from appointment of security chiefs, like you said, to execution and result. Set timelines for it. Set input, output metrics and monitoring mechanisms. Okay.
Now, Dr. Vincent, we are going to continue with this conversation. Most especially, I'd like you to land on what you were actually talking about, but then we have to quickly take this breaking news. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation. According to reports reaching us now, violence has broken out today in some areas of Rivers State. We understand that some youths in the Degema local government area of the state took over the council headquarters. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has instructed administrative heads in the state's 23 local government areas to assume control from the elected council chairman whose 3-year terms ended on Monday. Governor Fubara announced this directive in a state broadcast on Tuesday from Port Harcourt, emphasizing that this action aligns with constitutional provisions and aims to maintain peace and order. He acknowledged the council chairman's dedication to public service. And we will continue to bring details even as we monitor this particular event ongoing in Rivers State and ensure that the details comes to you live on News Central Television.
Just up! He's running! Check out! Look at me, he's running! Check out! Look at him! The man and his steps are running! Look at them! They're running! Look at them! Look at the mayor! Look at him!
My job as a policeman is to protect lives and properties. And that's what we have gone out to do since morning. We are aware of the crisis that has to do with the tenure of the local government chairman. We have gotten one court order or the other about it. The Court of Appeal has given an order, and then for everybody to exercise restraint till 20th of this month, just 3 days. So we expect everybody to respect it, not to take laws into their hands, and allow peace to continue.
You're watching Business Edge on News Central Television, and we have been talking to Dr. Vincent Nwani, who has been x-raying with us the issue around Nigeria losing 94 trillion naira to multinationals that have actually left the country within the space of 5 years. And Dr. Vincent, just as we're talking about the issue around insecurity, as we have it in the rural areas, we have it in the urban areas, we have it in the farms, we have it in cosmopolitan areas, and this is just one of the things we're talking about, and it actually discourages investors to come into the country when we don't have stability in our polity. So I'd like you to just pick it from there and tie it around what you were talking about in terms of dealing with the issue around insecurity if we are hoping to have a stable economy.
Thank you very much, and thank God that the situation in Rivers State is under control. And you can imagine tying it into the topic we're discussing about when an investor that is planning to invest $100 million US see this type of clip in the center of oil-rich state in Nigeria, how it will affect his decision to go ahead with that investment. Of course, if it is so important, he will either delay, stay by the side to watch how things are moving. You know, and this insecurity, we know this type is exacerbated by the elites. You know, so there is need to deal with the insecurity with the arms, with the security forces, but again, to become a bit more innovative about it, because I'm not a security expert, but we've been on it for too long. Different types of a committee set up, different types of units being set up. You know, we need to involve the people. We need to, we've been talking about community policing, state policing for too long. Something needs to happen to that almost very quickly. But I believe that in terms of insecurity, the government being very bold and showing example, when I say is that, you know, use some high-level scapegoats, you know, will even make a lot of small security, insecurity agents to know that there is a new sheriff in town and this government is ready to deal with anybody, no matter your level in the country. You know, the absence of setting harsh example with notable figures who have compromised our system is one of the things that continue to embolden this state and make it to be lingering and wide across the country.
Okay, so there's this school of thought that says with the exit of these multinational companies, that is not totally doom and gloom for the Nigerian market, that this will be a very important, vital opportunity for local manufacturers, local businesses to plunge into that space and fill the vacuum. But of course, you still want to look at the issue around capacity and the fact that these companies are also reeling from the impact of government policies that is actually increasing the cost of production and running costs. So is there a way around that? And is that even possible in the first place?
Yes, it's possible, to be honest. And since yesterday or day before yesterday, when this report came out, I've heard from different quarters so many debate around the fact that, hey, this is a great time for Nigerian investors, for Nigerians to step in, and they're already stepping in to take shares and take stake where there are opportunities for the investment. Great and fine. But you know that Nigerian economy have a huge opportunities that are even untapped. This is a raw green ground. You know, so the opportunity to Nigerian investors shouldn't crystallize until these multinationals are leaving. You know, other economies where they are big and growing and more are coming in, indigenous investors are still growing. They are still exploring opportunities. It shouldn't be like a basket, pouring a fresh water into a basket. It has to leak before you pour another one. At the end of the day, you are not making any progress. You are even retrogressing or just at the same point. We've seen situations where investors that are looking at investing tangibly into the Nigerian economy just because of this news decide to delay or even go to another jurisdiction, entirely. So I believe that, and some people have even argued that, hey, Nigerians and Asians are coming in to invest. And what I did was to look at the top tax-paying companies in Nigeria. The first 100, you hardly see the Asian investors. And some of them have been in this economy for 100 years. Thereabout. So we need to keep some of these institutions, or even if not all of them. That doesn't reduce the opportunity that local investors, that are available to local investors or any other investors. Dangote doesn't need to chase away any investor before he became a powerhouse of cement in Nigeria. Now a powerhouse in oil and gas, powerhouse in fertilizer, and so on. So like I said, the economy is so green. So many areas are calling for investment. Nigeria did not need to chase away Standard Bank in Nigeria or Standard Chartered before Access Bank became a multinational in Africa and a force to be reckoned with.
Okay.
So I don't think that Shell have to leave and Chevron have to leave before Nigerians can be a force in oil and gas.
All right. Dr. Vincent Nwani, economist and investment specialist, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the show. We appreciate your presence.
Thank you very much for having me.